Hey folks, Tim Shire here with the Sentinel Sports Extra Cavs post-game report. Well, the Cavs winning streak came to an end. Uh, you know, it would eventually. No one's ever gone 82-0. And you knew it would end in Boston, no matter what. Even if the Cavs had outplayed the Celtics the entire game, the NBA was going to make sure that it ended tonight in Boston. And, the officiating wasn't as horrible as I thought it would be. The Celtics whined the entire game like they do. They whined the entire game. Jason Tatum whining the entire game. And then, basically doing what bully teams do best, like bullying and flagrantly fouling Donovan Mitchell. Of course, it wasn't even reviewed because it was the Celtics. If Donovan Mitchell had done that to Jason Tatum, he probably would have got suspended for it. But it's typical. This is the NBA. The Celtics have always gotten the calls. They always get the calls. They'll always get the calls. No matter what. Even when they were terrible in the 90s into the 2000s, they always got the calls in Canadian TD Bank Garden. It wasn't the Celtics shot very well from three. I have to say that they did. They shot 54% from three. The Cavs shot 5% from three. The overall shooting from the field was very close. Boston ended up shooting 52%. The Cavs ended up shooting 50%. So the big deficit in the second quarter and then early in the third really hurt them a lot. It's really hard to come back and from a 21-point deficit. But they fought. They got it within two. I have to feel that if even one of the three guys that were out tonight, LeVert, Okoro, and Wade had played, the Cavs would have won this game. I really believe they would have. And I think that you have the broadcasters talking about how the Celtics are without Kristaps Porzingis. They mentioned Okoro one time. They never mentioned Dean Wade. They never mentioned Caris LeVert. One time they mentioned Isaac Okoro. But they mentioned Kristaps Porzingis every other word that came out of their mouth. So especially when the Cavs started to get the game close, then they started to mention it more and more because, there had to be an excuse. And then on the post-game show, I like those guys, Barkley, Shaq, and Kenny. Well, I don't like Kenny Smith. I never have. But Barkley and Shaq, really were giving the Cavs no credit. The Celtics went cold from three in the third quarter, in the second half. Well, maybe it was because the Cavs defense was better. How about that? Give them some credit. No, we don't ever give Cleveland credit. Especially Barkley. He will never give Cleveland credit. Cleveland could go 82-0 in a season, and Charles Barkley would say they played a soft schedule. He would. That's just Charles Barkley can't get over the fact that Cleveland owned him in his career. Owned him. And as for Shaq, I like Shaq. But that first half for watching the Cavs was similar to watching Shaq the year he played for the Cavs. It was ugly. So I think that, a loss is a loss. It's one loss. It's not anything more than that. We have, there's 66 games to go. Only thing I hope that Donovan Mitchell isn't hurt. And I would bet he doesn't play tomorrow night. I would not be surprised if he doesn't play tomorrow night. Jason Tatum, I'm telling you something. Jason Tatum, they need to put, the next time they play the Celtics, they need to put Tristan Thompson in the game. This is my opinion. They need to put Tristan Thompson in the game and show Jason Tatum what an elbow is. Because what he did is bullshit. No one can say that he was going for the ball. He was not going for the ball. He dove at Donovan Mitchell. That is not an NBA play. Of course, Charles Barkley says it was because it happened against the Cavs. If Mitchell had done that to Tatum, Barkley would be all over it. Shaq said it should have been a flagrant. Okay? Kenny Smith wasn't saying nothing because he wasn't saying anything, because he, besides his little walking by the green screen at halftime, Kenny Smith is pretty much insignificant on that show. He is. But the Cavs are 15-1. The Cavs are still 2.5 games up on the Celtics fans. They're still 2.5 games up on you. So they're still the number 1 seed in the East. They still have the best record in the NBA. They've beaten a lot of good teams. So this doesn't determine the whole season tonight. Even though a lot of Cavs fans or fans around the NBA, well, we know how it is in Cleveland. Cleveland fans give up on teams not named the Browns instantly. Okay, so they'll give up on the Cavs. They'll start saying all kinds of lousy stuff about them now because they lost tonight. But the national media, of course, was never behind the Cavs. They never acted like the Cavs were good. Cavs will probably drop like 5-6 spots in the power rankings now that all the networks do, the meaningless power rankings. But, hey, it's one loss. I thought they battled very well in the second half, particularly the last part of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, into the last seconds of the fourth quarter. They battled. They were shorthanded, even though the national broadcasters did not tell the national audience that the Cavs were shorthanded. The Cavs were shorthanded tonight. They were shorthanded a guy who normally starts, Isaac Okoro, and Dean Wade and Karis LeVert, the first two guys off the bench normally. So they were short. And Darius Garland, he had a bad night, okay? He did. All those people that criticized him last year, I know you're going to jump on him after tonight and say he can't play well in big games. I was a critic of him last year. I will admit it. But tonight, he just had a bad game. Guys have bad games. Okay? Stop jumping on a guy for one bad game. That's what makes Cleveland sports fans look ignorant. Jumping on a guy because of one bad game. He had a bad game tonight. The Cavs lost. It's not the end of the world. They play tomorrow night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse at 7 o'clock against the New Orleans Pelicans. Hopefully Mitchell's able to play after being basically mugged by the whiny Jason Tatum, who really wasn't good enough to play much in the Olympics. He could only play in Boston Garden, where he gets all the calls. And in the NBA, where the Celtics get all the calls, road or home. But in the Olympics, he barely played, and he whined about that. Because that's what he does. He whines. Did you see him and Jaylen Brown, after every drive to the basket, whined about not getting a foul? Even if there was nobody near him, they whine. It's typical. They usually get the calls, though, because they're the Celtics. This has been a theme for at least 50 years. I don't remember before that, so I can't really say. But it's been a theme for 50 years. You go to the Boston Garden, the Celtics get the calls. They get the calls when it matters. They get the non-calls, So Jason Tatum, like I said, I think he's lucky that was at the end of the game. Kenny Atkinson, I don't think is the kind of coach that's just going to sit there and let that happen to his team. I'm sure he's disappointed in this loss. He won't make any excuses after the game. He won't throw any of his players under the bus like J.B. Bickerstaff did to Jared Allen last year after he lost his job. Kenny Atkinson won't do that. But Kenny Atkinson will be hard on them. And he'll say what they have to get better at. He's not going to make any excuses tonight because that's not what he does. Kenny Atkinson doesn't make excuses. They lost this game. They have to do better. That's what he does. And so tomorrow night against the New Orleans Pelicans, hopefully they get a couple of the guys back that didn't play tonight. Hopefully Mitchell plays. I'm very skeptical after that, blatant foul by Jason Tatum that was, of course, only a regular foul. But I will see you tomorrow for the pregame report and then a postgame report after the game with the Pelicans. So, again, the Cavs lost tonight, 120-117. They played the game close with the Celtics and made a nice comeback, which I'm sure the national media hates because the Cavs stuck with them to the end. So have a good night, everybody, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.